Nice.
which was
Nice.
very hardly hit as well by coronavirus. So we're like
Yeah.
hotspots for for this whole situation. Okay,
Yeah.
we should be
Yeah.
going live.
Okay.
A
We'll try
minute.
to.
Yes, there we are. Okay, welcome to the quarantine session, everyone. Thank you for joining. Thank you so much for joining. Today we're going to talk about a topic that is kind of a big question mark for all of us non-techies, which is UX, user experience. And I'm here with a super awesome guest. His name is
Thank you.
Abdelrahman Osama. He's the founder of Simpleia. Abdelrahman, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. Thank you. It's my honor. Thank you very much.
I think we can start by kind of like breaking down these acronyms, right? That we see everywhere, UX, and then
Yeah.
we see UI, and it gets complicated and confusing.
Yeah.
So what is UX exactly, and what's the difference between UI and UX?
Yeah, it's a little bit hard to explain what UX is because usually when somebody asks about what is the definition of UX, usually what they mean is the definition of UX design, not UX itself. Because you cannot
Right.
describe an experience, you cannot say, actually it's been a little bit confusing how we can design an experience. So
Yeah.
usually we define the user experience design. So user experience design is the process of designing a product or service that is valuable, usable, and desirable. That's
Okay.
basically the definition. Of course, there is a little bit different definitions, more advanced definitions. There is the definition of Don Norman. Don Norman, as many of you already know, is the godfather, the person who coined the term UX, user experience, and he is
Yeah.
actually also the first person to hold this title, UX architect, at Apple, I think in the mid 90s. And his definition is user experience encompasses all aspects of the end user's interaction with the company, its services, and its products. So basically, it's the thin layer between technology and humans.
Right.
So the way people interact with technology and how easy or hard or usable or annoying or good or bad it is.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Can you repeat? You said it should be useful. I love these three concepts that you mentioned before.
Yeah. Valuable, value, usability,
Yeah. Yeah.
desirability.
Okay, and desirable. Okay, I
Yep.
like that because that must be super complicated to figure out what does the customer desire, right?
Yes,
Um,
it is.
Now, where do you even start? When you think of your user experience as a company, as a tech startup, where should you start thinking about it?
Usually there is like a big stage, a big phase we start with, which is research and strategy. Some people call it discovery, some people call it inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the term research and strategy. It's basically understanding three things, which is the business objectives, and the market, what is out there in the market, and the users. Who
Mm-hmm.
are the users? What are their needs? What are their personalities? How do they feel? How do they think? What are the scenarios? What is the context they will be using this product through? So this is basically the three things we need to understand before going forward and starting to um, select what features will be there in what platform it will be designed, when
Mm-hmm.
they will use it, how they will use it, all this kind of stuff. So basically, we need to understand and define before design.
Right, right. Can every and any company, should they all think about having a UX designer or somehow designing the user experience? Does this apply to any business in any industry?
Any business interacting with people or creating products that are interacting with different people, with different kind of users, they need UX designers or service designers or customer experience designer or some kind of designer,
Mhm,
that
mhm.
will be designing the interaction between this product and the human, and how easy will it be and how desirable will it be and all this kind of stuff. Yep,
Right,
yep,
right.
everything. Yeah, and everything
So,
actually is already designed. Everything is designed. Whether you put the effort to to design it in a good way, to be well designed, or it just designed randomly like that. But it has to be designed because it's out there. So, you know, somebody created, somebody choose, somebody takes the decisions to put it this way, you know.
Yeah, right, right. Now, if we think about customer experience, another term that is frequently used, we actually had a session about customer experience. So where do we draw the line there between UX and customer experience?
This is a complicated question, you know, because all these are terms. At the end of the day, designer is a designer. So you have a user, you have his problem, you have some sort of technology or a platform or a medium that you will be using to let this user trying to achieve his goals. So there is a lot of terms out there, and there are a lot of definitions, there are, you know, a lot of classifications,
yeah,
that we usually try to avoid speaking about, you know, because every organization has its own terminology and
mm-hmm.
its own organizational structure and it's all, you know. So usually, from my point of view, um, we started to contract the umbrella of UX into the product, that UX design is only designing a digital interface.
Right.
So customer experience term came out to start to highlight the bigger umbrella of all the interactions with the user, between the user and the brand, the product, even the call center, even if I walk through their physical store or anything like that. So, but actually, if we get back to the Don Norman definition of UX, this is UX. This is not CX. It's still UX. But what
Right.
we do is we put UX in a limited place. So we needed another bigger term. So we name it CX. You know.
Right.
But anyway,
Right.
just terms. It is, you know, it's not a big deal. Yeah.
Right. And then we have UI, which is the interface, right?
Yes.
So what is UI? How do you define that?
Okay. So there's a big misconception that we always say UI versus UX. Actually, it's not versus. It's UI is part of UX. User experience
Right.
is a big umbrella. Actually, a bigger umbrella is branding.
Right.
Branding is how you define yourself as a brand, as a product. And then there is a smaller umbrella, which is UX of one product. So we
Mm-hmm.
have Apple as a brand, and we have the iPhone. So this is one product, and the experience of this product, and the value to the user of this product, and the usability of this product, everything about this product. And then we have a smaller umbrella below the UX, which is interaction design, how people actually interact with the tangible layer of this product. UX has a lot of emotional other stuff, psychological other stuff, other than the tangible stuff. The interaction is the tangible part.
Right.
So how I hold it, the ergonomics is part of the interaction. How easy it is how responsive is the screen, the touch, the stuff. You know, how easy I can reach out to you know to be able to reach any of the screen parts, all this kind of stuff. So this is interaction. Part of the interaction is UI design.
Right.
So UI design is part of interaction, which is part of the UX, which is part of brand. So UI is part of UX. We cannot say that UX is important and UI is not so important. It's not. It doesn't work this way. UI is a very important part of UX.
Right.
But maybe I would say it's not the most important part of UX. UI is not. It's important, but it's not the most important. The most important is the value to the users. The more important than UI is the usability of the users. And we can see products like Wikipedia that maybe doesn't have a very appealing, you know, user interface, you know, but it's very usable. It has a lot of value. It has a lot of content. Value equal content here in this case.
Right.
So actually, it's the fifth most visited website in the world.
Right.
So this is an evidence that, you know, that it's a good UX. People using it. So this is the only way we can measure what is a well-designed product or not. If people using it, it's a well-designed product. If not, it's not a well-designed product. Even if it looks very good, you know.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
We have a comment from Ale. He's saying, I believe any company aiming to be customer centric needs UX at any time. So the full experience the customer has is tailored to their customers. Can I ask a live question instead of asking in a written form? Sorry, Ala, if you can type it down, it's easier for us to manage because sometimes we get questions from Facebook and at the same time from the webinar. So it's please feel free to use the Q&A, or you can do it in the comment section on Facebook or the webinar. Thank you so much. Yeah, Nadine is saying, I love that you mentioned that UX is a part of branding because many people don't know that they are integrated. Can you explain more? How can we make UX as a part of our branding strategy?
Yes, this is very important. Actually, the big problem here is the consistency and the connection between all these aspects. We often deal with each of these areas as if it's separate. So we have like we have a brand with its brand guidelines, with it. Mostly people in our region don't really do branding. You know, they just do like, you know, the visual identity, the color themes, the logos, and stuff like that. But branding is about the culture, about why do this organization or this product or this thing exists. Why do we exist? And so branding is about culture. Is about who will relate to this brand. So it's like Nike. It's about sports. So if it's about Apple, it's about thinking different and stuff like that. So who will relate to these products and who will relate to this brand? So usually we like to do it like, you know, it's a product for everybody. Everybody should use it. So you know, no targeting, no focus. So no specific, you know, strategy. So if we have a well-defined brand strategy, UX should be totally linked, should be directly linked to this strategy. And the brand strategy actually should be reflected on each of the product or each of these company aspects, from the voice and tone of their advertising, of their social media. When somebody, you know, answer your phone in a call center, when you get into walk through their physical store, how they deal with you, how organized is the place, how actually even it's the interior design of the place. Is it related to the brand? Is it, you know, all of these aspects, of course, and of course the digital product, if there is a digital product at the end. So how it is related to, if you can see all Apple products, for example, you can see they are all consistent in a way or another. They are all there is something, you know, something like combining something between them. They are all very minimal, all very sometimes a little bit, if you know. So there is something that is collecting. There is an umbrella that every product under this brand is connected through it with each others. So
Right.
this is how I see the connection between brand and UX. So UX should be guided by the brand it's done. So for example, if I'm doing if I'm a designer at Google Maps, I will be designing the Google Maps in a way different than if I'm a designer in Apple Maps. So both are maps, both are doing the same thing, but this is a brand with different, you know, mindset for different people, and this is a brand for a different another people, another culture, you know.
Right, right. Amir Rahman asks, what are your tips to enhance UX for e-commerce, and where can I learn more about UX for e-commerce?
In e-commerce specifically, it's basically about conversion optimization. So in e-commerce, we need, for every 100 users who landed on your homepage, we need more people to go to the second page, which is, for example, the category page. And then we need more, for example, from the 100, we have like 70 going to the categories. From the 70, we have like 50 going to the items, one individual item. From the items, we have like, for example, 20 going to the basket or the cart. And then we have like 3 going to the checkout. So this is the funnel. We call it the funnel, the conversion funnel, and we need to optimize this conversion rate. So basically, the UX in the heavy traffic and you know, e-commerce, booking websites, reservation for hotel, this kind of stuff, this kind of platforms usually care about the conversion rates very, very heavily. So conversion rate optimization is basically about A/B testing. It's about understanding why the users are not converting very well, trying to define, to understand why it's not, conversion is not high enough. And then you start, based on this understanding, based on these assumptions, you start changing something Maybe the text on the call to action button is not so clear. Maybe the button it's not clear that it's clickable. Something like that, maybe something. Maybe the color is not bright enough. It's not focal point enough. So you start changing something, and you start measuring again the conversion. And if it if it achieves, then this is the right way to go. If it doesn't, you need to go back and change something else. So usually at e-commerce, it's about conversion, and conversion rates is about designing, iterating, and A/B testing and measuring.
Right.
Yep.
Osama has a similar question. He's asking, what tools and processes do you recommend to build an appealing UI for a website? So we're focusing here on tools and processes. So if you know perhaps a couple of tools that people can use when building that.
We don't care much about tools in general because there is a ton of tools, and usually, give or take, mostly they are all the same. So we use XD at Simpleia. We use XD. I used to be a very big fan of Sketch, but Sketch, it's only on Macs, so it's been a little bit challenging to keep all the team on Macs. So Sketch is very nice. XD is also very awesome, and there's Figma, also is great. So that's in terms of tools, but all are the same at the end of the day. In terms of process, when you have a very well designed, actually at the UX process, every phase like serves the phase that comes after it. So if you have good wireframes, if you have good user flows, information architecture, you will have better wireframes. When you have better wireframes, you will have better UI. So if you have more complete, more sophisticated, more high fidelity wireframes, more tested wireframes, you will have better UI. But what I like to highlight here, other than the process and the wireframing and the tools and all this stuff, what is much more important is the design system. I don't know if everybody here is familiar, but design systems now is like it's not optional anymore. Doing a design system, building a design system before getting into UI is very crucial, very important, because you need for UI, you will be changing in a product environment, with product roadmap and iterations and testing and stuff. You will be changing, you will be adding features, moving features, you will be optimizing, so you need a system, a design system for all these screens that will start growing bigger and bigger to be all consistent on different platforms, on different stages. So you need to set a design system. You need to adjust the typography, the colors, the components. So we have, this is the button, this is its dimensions, this is its color, this is how it looks. For example, a form, and this is the submit button of the form. We have the navigation. We have, if there is like some sort of cards of some way, so you have to set these components very well, and you can add components as you go when needed. But for the system to be more consistent, and actually it's also better in modifications. You can modify easily. When you have a system, you can just change something and it will change this component in all the files. Even at XD now, there is a design system over the clouds. You can make one file for a design system, and then all the files at all the team machines, even if you send it to the client, they send it to the developers, everybody will be connected to this one design system file on the cloud. So if you change a color, if you change a component, if you change something, everybody will be opening his file in any of these machines and connected to the internet. It will start telling him there are some stuff that are changed, some components that are changed. So would you like to revise? Would you like to update? Stuff like that. So it's very powerful. It's very important, actually.
Okay, we have a lot of questions now coming through our webinar. Regarding what you were just saying, what tools do you use for design system, Rami asked?
Just XD.
And combined to that, in summary, how do you deploy a design system in a new startup? Deploy, I guess, a design system in a new startup. So tools and how do you deploy that design system?
Yeah, if it's a new startup, it's much easier because you are building the UI from scratch. So before building the UI, you set a design system, and you will find, speaking of branding, you will find the design system is very connected also with the visual identity of the brand. So you will need to take, doesn't have to be the exact colors. You will need a little bit different colors that go better with digital interfaces, because print is different than screens. Print actually absorbs light, papers and surfaces absorbs light, and screens actually emits lights. So colors can't work both ways. So you will need to change a little bit, but you will need to use the same feel, the same shades of the colors. And of course, if the brand visual identity is is a little bit, for example, playful, a little bit strict, a little bit professional, a little bit energetic. So you will need to get the brand identity into the design system for the whole UI, the whole look and feel to be extended all through your product from the branding. So basically it's like the visual identity, but expanded to include each of the components and each of the elements in a UI.
Right.
So this is about the answer. For the tools, we just use XD.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. We have a very long question from Ale. From my knowledge about the UX process.
Question. Can I read this question with you? I cannot see them.
Yes, definitely. So if you go to the Q&A section, it's quite a long question. I understand, Ale, why you wanted to ask live now. Can you see the Q&A question, Abdelrahman?
Yeah, I can see them now.
Yeah.
Yes, Ala, do you have which question?
So it's the longest one that you will see from Ala Hussein.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Okay.
From my knowledge about the UX process, a part of it is gathering different psychographic, demographic, geographic, and behavioral information about the customer, depending on how you organize the clustering of these customer groups to understand the different pain and gain points and what's the best way to deliver the perceived value that person is expecting and needs from your product. My question here is, how do you go through the process of collecting that data, whether in terms of tool or data collection method?
How collecting the data, whether in terms of tools?
How do we collect the data, the psychographic, demographic, geographic, and behavioral information that we need about the customer?
Okay. So this is, of course, it's part of the user research. We usually start with UX strategy, which is more about the business objectives and market. Then we go to the user research. So user research has a lot of methods to conduct the user research. The most basic, the most actually also efficient is one-on-one user interviews. So we do very classical, very fundamental, usual user interviews with the users, one-on-one user interviews. We prepare our questions. We start running a conversation with the users. Actually, has to be the targeted kind of users, not any someone walking down the street. So we start asking, we start running the conversation with the users in what we call a phase of empathy, empathizing with the users.
Mm-hmm.
So we ask them to tell stories. We don't just ask them questions and answers. So here's a question, tell me the answer. It's not like we can just send it out as a survey. So it's not a survey. It's an empathy session where we start to understand why do they say what they say, how do they feel about every other aspect and all this kind of stuff. So usually we just sit with the users, understand their needs, their pains, their context, how they will need to use it, why do they need to use it. So we understand the how, the why, and the what, all this kind of stuff from the user interviews. Then we go back, also we record this, of course, then we go back to our offices, and then we start another phase which called, it's also part of user research, which is user modeling. User modeling is the most basic, the most common deliverable or document of the user modeling is the persona, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So we have the persona, we make the persona out of the user interview. Some people I can see, they just go down, open their laptop and start making a persona out of their own assumption. So actually it doesn't have a lot of value. So user research is about the user research, not the modeling. It's about the user interviews, the observation, the shadowing, the immersion. So then you go out and you to the office and you start modeling your users. So yeah, you start collecting what you've learned from the user interviews. You start modeling or rendering what you've learned, what you've emphasized into the personas, into the empathy maps, into the user scenarios, all this kind of different kind of canvases and documents you start filling out just to try to transfer your empathy with the user to some kind of document that you can then share with the rest of the team or share with the stakeholders, whatever the decision makers or whatever. So this is the process,
Right.
and it's very
Nusayba,
tricky and it's very sorry.
go on, go on, go on.
Okay, no, I was just saying that communicating empathy is the most difficult kind of communication. You can communicate numbers, you can communicate code, you can communicate facts, but communicating the empathy is a little bit. It's not a little bit. It's so hard.
Right,
So this is the tricky part about design. It's dealing with people, not with machines, not with numbers. Yep.
right, right. You were talking about research, user research, right? Nusayba was asking, how is market research and user research different? What's the difference between
Oh, this question, yeah.
them?
Okay, this is of course a common question that we get asked a lot. So actually, user research and market research, their methods are very similar. In fact, maybe it's the same.
Mm-hmm.
Surveys, interviews, research, it's the same thing. But what is different is the intention or the desired outcome or the insights that we are after in each of both.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes we go out for a company and we say, okay, for in order to start working on your product, we need to start by user research. And they say, oh, okay, we already have the market research. We say, that's nice, but we need to make further user research. So what we'll do, you will be doing, we start saying, we'll be making user interviews. We'll start be making, they say, oh, okay, we did all that already. It's good, but you did the interviews in order in a point of view of marketing. Marketing is about who will be paying, who will be the customer, and what shall we do to make him pay and to make him buy our product. So this is the intention of the marketing. Our intention is not about the customer, it's about the user who will actually use this product. So after he bought it, now when he use it, he will like it or not.
Right.
So both are similar methods, but different intentions, different results. We need to understand what to do in this product in order for him to love using it and to get back to using it again and again, and to start telling everybody, go out, use this product, it's a good product. So it's different intentions, same methods, and that's what's confusing about it.
Right. One of the questions I had was about the steps, right? The steps to build a user experience. Um, do you consider, the user research the first step? Like, what does that involve?
Okay, I can say a typical UX process. I will say it in a minute, but before that, I would love, I would like to think about UX not as a process, but as a toolkit.
Mm-hmm.
We have set of tools.
Mm-hmm.
We have competitor analysis. We have value proposition. We have personas. We have user flows. We have user testing. We have A/B testing. We have UI. We have different tools
Yeah.
that you can use in any order in order to achieve whatever goal you have or whatever problem you are trying to solve. So sometimes we start with a startup that's already have traffic, have already have numbers, have analysis. We can see the funnel, we can see the conversion. So usually with this kind of products, we start by looking at the data. We have data, it's more accurate, more important. So we start checking out the funnels. We start checking out to see if there is any unusual gaps,
Mm-hmm.
unusual what we call bounce rates, and we start spotting out these problems, and we start, okay, we need now to understand why there is this problem. So either it's very very obvious why there's a problem here, or we need to make further research in this specific problem, and then we start designing and making A/B testing and iterating and stuff. So this is, for example, not a typical process. Sometimes people have a product that's already out there, and they are not getting enough traction, there is no market fit. So we start by, okay, let's see the users, the early adapters that tried using your products and they didn't try it again. So let's talk with them and see what's the problem. So
Right.
this is kind of, so it's different in each case. It's very different.
Right.
But is a typical UX process for a very new product would be usually starting with UX strategy. The core of UX strategy is the stakeholder interviewing. We start interviewing with the stakeholders, the business owners, the founders, the CEOs, marketing, different people, marketing manager, business manager, all the involved persons. We call them the stakeholders, and we
Mhm.
start understanding why do you need to redesign this product or to start this new product, or what is the business objective.
Mhm.
And in this phase as well of the UX strategy, we start also understanding who out there in the market, and we start mapping the value proposition for the users.
Mhm.
And we do something else called strategy canvas, which is it's kind of competitor analysis with the value proposition. So this is the UX strategy. We start with the UX strategy. Then after that comes the user research.
Mhm.
And so we understand the business, the market. Now we understand the user.
Mhm.
After that, we start ideating solutions. So strategy and research is about understanding the problems. It's not about coming out with solutions. It's
Mhm.
about understanding the problem, the user, the business, the market. Then we start ideation. Okay, now we have a problem, a well-defined problem. Now we start ideating solutions. And after that, we start the interaction design phase, which
Mhm.
is information architecture, wireframing, UI, and then testing, prototyping and testing.
Right. Right. We had several more questions. Um, do you have any recommended reads or courses that would be a good doorway to start learning more about UX? Reads or courses?
There is a lot of courses. Of course, I always like the stuff of Nelson NN Group, Nelson Norman Group.
Mm-hmm.
I see it like the most authentic, the most credible resource out there talking about UX. They provide courses and they provide certificates. It's very expensive, but if you can if you can afford it, it will be very beneficial.
Mm-hmm.
But so that's usually what I can actually advise. There's a lot of other platforms as well. There's Design Lab. I'm a mentor at something called Design Lab. It's not as advanced or as credible as Nelson Norman. It's a good start.
Mm-hmm.
There is a course on an Arabic platform called Idrak. I didn't see it, but I trust it's a good one as a start as well.
Mm-hmm.
So as for books, I will not tell you what to read, but I will tell you what not to read. So don't read the big stuff. Don't read Nelson Norman's Designing for Emotion, or the design of everyday things, or this kind of stuff. Is very very philosophical. You will start feeling that it's very hard. It's not that hard really.
Right.
So there is some books at something called UX Pin
Mhm.
books. So there's a lot of books out there that are very light, very nice, you can start with.
Right. So not delving into the heavy stuff you recommend.
Yeah,
Uh,
you don't have, yeah,
we've
so
received a lot of questions. Rami Soliman, for example, is asking about hiring. How do you hire a very good UX UI designer? Do you conduct any testing to evaluate them?
yes, I've read this question. It was in your email before, and it's actually maybe the hardest question,
Yeah.
because hiring UX designer is very hard. Because usually people just find a good portfolio and it's just hiring this
Mhm.
person, and it's a trap. So, and I'm not saying everybody with a good portfolio is not really good, but
Mhm.
sometimes, lots of times, there is like people who are making very good portfolios, but when you throw at them real life problems, they can do user research. They can really find their ways around actual problems and actual dealing with actual team and dealing with actual tasks. So what I do usually is I tried giving new hires a task for them to do. And I tried it actually once, and he did the test very well, and I hired him, and then I start working as usually as we do, and then I was shocked that his results are way lower than what I've expected from his task, and then I learned that he actually let somebody else, help him doing it. So what I do now is I ask for this person to come and spend one day with me at the office, and I start making giving him our daily usual tasks,
Yeah.
what we do every day, our actual daily tasks, in parallel, of course, of other actual designers working on actual real projects. And if it's a good day, we ask him to spend a week with us, a paid week. If it's a good week, maybe he starts his internship with us. So this is actually what I do. I let people
Right.
come in and start working.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right. Right. Ziad is asking, how can I find good ideas to make my first case study? I'm guessing he's referring as well to the portfolio, or in in terms of case studies.
Hmm. How can I find a good idea to make my first case study? Maybe something you've noticed, maybe something you've been thinking about lately. You have lots of ideas for. You can actually make a big improvement
Mhm.
about. You know, each of us designers, usually just notice stuff while they are using, applications, going, walking down the streets, going around. They just notice brands, notice problems, notice pain points. So anything you notice, you have a good idea, you can start your research, start interviewing people, start building up your case study, and it would be a good case study, even if it's not huge. Sometimes we just try to redesign a whole platform. You don't have to. Maybe it's something very simple. It's just one feature or something like that. It doesn't have to be huge. So yeah.
Right, right. And I have a question, a burning question as well. Um, do you have an example? Like, let's think of a global brand or a regional brand in the Middle East that has exceptional user experience.
In the Middle East.
Yeah, it could be regional or it could be global, but a company that you think would be sort of like, you know, kind of
A good
a
job.
milestone.
Yeah, I to be professional, I cannot judge if
Mhm.
I'm not seeing numbers, because it's about retention. If it's being used, it's good. So if I'm not seeing numbers, because some people just show me an application after, if somebody see me in the street or something, and tell us about this UX, is it good or not? So it's not about that. I don't know who are the user. Maybe I'm not the user. Maybe I'm
Right,
the target user.
right.
So I cannot judge if I'm not seeing the numbers. Show me the numbers, I can tell you. But as a user, not as a professional,
Mhm,
I really love Glovo, for example.
mhm,
I
mhm,
really love Breakfast. I don't know
mhm.
if you're familiar with Breakfast. Breakfast is
But
very
what is
good
it about their customer
product as well.
experience? What? Yeah, I know breakfast. But what is it about the customer experience that you think is so good?
Which one? Breakfast or Glovo?
Either breakfast. I mean, either or
Yeah.
global. What is it about that user experience that you find to be very exceptional?
As for Glovo, it's very simple.
Mm-hmm.
You will just find the info that you want, only the info that you want, not
Mm-hmm.
the info that you want and another extra ton of information that you really don't. It's not
Right.
necessary.
Right.
So at Glovo, it's very simple, it's very to the point, and actually it's very also it has very nice touches, like their menu, their circular menu. If there is raining, you will see like the raining the menu and stuff like that. So it's
Mm-hmm.
it's very it's very nice at Glovo.
Nice.
At Breakfast, I like that their customer service, actually the way they deliver the products, their packaging, they are very good actually. If they make any even a very little mistake, they always pay you back, instantly and stuff like that. So it's just about customer service, and
Right.
they are very good at it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right, right. Well, I love the insights you've given us today. It's been like quite a ride because a lot of new concepts were coming in. So thank you
Mm,
so much, Abdelrahman. It has been really amazing.
thank you.
And thank you to everyone that tuned in, all the participants, all the questions. Thank you so much. We will see you tomorrow for another edition of the quarantine sessions with the Cairo Angels. Thank you
Thank you.
and happy
Thank you.
quarantine. Thank you, Abdelrahman. Bye
Okay,
bye.
bye. Bye bye.